But
Oh,
yeah,
sweet. Yeah.
that's very
Yeah,
nice.
I'm glad to be able to chat with you
Yeah,
more.
hello. Yeah,
Hi.
yeah. So I guess we'll get started. So
Okay, sounds
great.
good.
So hi
Cool.
everyone. Thank you for watching or listening later. My name is Alice. I'm the social media manager for Jubilance, and today I'm talking to Rebecca Lantry. Um,
Hi.
Rebecca is currently pursuing her MS in marriage and family therapy from San Diego State University, and she currently holds her MA in counseling and education and works with youth, young adults, and families around confidence, love, relationships, and empowerment. So we're going to talk to Becca today about that. Yay!
Hey, yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so welcome, Becca. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for
And
having
do you
me.
prefer Becca or Rebecca?
It's
Okay.
interchangeable. Becca's like yeah, I've been experimenting with Becca with like client work to, I don't know, we'll see. But I relate to both, so either
Oh,
way is
okay,
fine.
perfect.
Even hey you.
I
Yeah.
realized I've been saying like both, and then I was like, I've never asked her. I feel like terrible if I'm not using the proper
Oh,
name.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, no, I go by
Okay.
both.
Well, we want to start off
Yeah.
with some fun questions. So, who's your
Okay.
favorite Disney princess and why?
Ooh, okay. So I'd have to go with, I don't know if she technically counts as a princess, which is why I kind of like that. I would say Mulan,
Love her.
because of her gender de stereotype defiance, and like, yeah, kick butt attitude and determination. Definitely Mulan.
That's amazing. And did you dress as Mulan
Yes.
to the Disney wedding?
Oh no, I was actually Mary Poppins. I dressed up as Mary Poppins because I already had the clothes and the makeup and the hat. But if it, yeah, I'm also for convenience too. But if I had the opportunity, I think I would for sure. I love a good like top knot situation and like comfy battle
That's
gear
amazing.
option.
Okay. If you
Yes.
were a salad dressing, which one would you be?
Ooh, okay. I would have to say Caesar,
Huh.
tangy, like thick, in depth, many layers to it. And yeah, most people like Caesar, I would hope.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
And like
Okay.
powerful like a Roman emperor.
Yeah, oh yeah. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that works. Maybe it's my subconscious being like,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Hmm.
Um, and
Definitely.
what's your favorite random fact?
Ooh, about me or the
Sure,
world
about
or
anything. I love
okay,
random facts.
yes. Okay, so one is my favorite. If you say um, beer can in an English accent, it sounds like bacon in a Jamaican accent. Bacon.
What? Bacon.
I know.
Wow, that's incredible.
Bacon.
Yeah, I didn't
I
know
know.
that. But
That is the
but
most
now I'll think
random
about it
fact, but
forever.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, right? How can you not? Yeah.
So so Becca, can you tell me where you're from and how did you get to San Diego where you currently live?
Yes, I am originally from the Los Angeles area, the San Fernando Valley, so I'm technically a Valley girl. And I lived there until I graduated college. And then the summer after I graduated college, I married my college sweetheart, Devin, and we moved 4 days after our wedding to San Diego because he already had a job here. And I was really interested in theater education at the time, and there was a really cool nonprofit that I found a job with and we had a wonderful situation to live and it just worked and like who doesn't love San Diego, so I was like why not, and so I've been here ever since. It's been 6 years.
That's that's amazing. And what's your favorite part about San
Yeah.
Diego?
Ooh, I absolutely love, it's multifaceted. I love the weather, I love the community, I love the people. um yeah, it's hard to not like, it's hard to walk by somebody and not exchange a smile. It's hard for it not to be like in the mid
Oh,
70s
I miss
on most
that.
days. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, now we live in kind of an urban area, but we live right by a river path, and it's just like there's nature everywhere, everywhere, and sunshine. And I just love it so
Oh, that's
much.
amazing. And what's your favorite
Yeah.
restaurant in San Diego? So, like, if anyone goes there, where do they need to go?
Yes, well, if you're in San Diego, you definitely need to try some Mexican food and definitely need to go to Ponce's. It's in
Huh.
Kensington, and it's a really lovely sit-down Mexican restaurant owned by a family. And it was like one of the first places when I moved here that Devin and his family took me to, and it's just like really, really good. Yeah, definitely. Ponce's, my favorite.
That sounds amazing. I've never tried it. I'll
Yeah,
have to check
so
it
good.
out.
Oh, it's so good. Yes, you
I'm
have to
any
try
kind of Mexican
it.
food.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and I was wondering, so you're pursuing another master's degree right now. You also have an MA in counseling and education already. Can you walk me
Yes.
through like what you wanted to do? So you were interested in theater education when you got out of school, and
Hmm.
then now you've kind of moved over into a different sort of therapy. Can you talk about how you got to where you are?
Yeah, definitely. So it's been an interesting shift that's kind of, led me here. So yeah, like you mentioned, and I mentioned I was interested in theater education. I graduated with my bachelor's in literature and theater because I acted and I was super interested
Wow,
in
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
fun fact also. Yeah, fun fact to know and tell. I was in some plays and I just loved what it felt like to be somebody else.
Mm.
I loved it. I loved the production elements. I loved working towards something bigger than myself. I loved being in community. I just absolutely loved it when I could go to like rehearsals and the end result, everything like that. And so I knew I wanted to work with kids. And I knew that maybe pursuing audition life wasn't necessarily for me. And so I was like, oh, I need to do something else with this, but still stay close to it because I love it so much. And I know how excited I was as a kid to do theater programs. So why not teach and figure something out? And I joined the team of this nonprofit that unfortunately doesn't really exist anymore, but we did kind of like life skills education through play and theater and improv
Oh,
and got really into it. And we would go into some unfortunate situations, maybe with youth in foster care or some schools who needed some resources, and go in and talk about conflict resolution through playing and theater. And it just happened to be the job that I got out of college that I was super into. I was following this
mm,
organization. And from there, I was like, oh, whoa, this conflict resolution stuff, I'm super into this. But all the stuff that's out there doesn't really incorporate theater so much, except
mm.
for what I'm doing now. So then I was like, oh, you know what? I could do more of this. And so I explored like what people call the experiential education realm with kids, and somehow ended up in a job working with young adults doing that too for a couple years, and thought, you know what? I'm really into this. I love movement. I love theater. I should probably get a degree to make me a bit more legit in the field. um, and so I ended up getting my master's in education and counseling, which is more like a broad
Huh.
degree. So that way I could learn more from the counseling
Mm.
element and the education element. So that way I could put my spin on it. And I absolutely loved it. And it was a year program, and it happened to be in the same school as the therapy program that I'm in now with similar professors. And we were in this group counseling class where I was wanting to integrate some kind of theater and restorative practices. And I realized, like, oh, yeah, I like therapy. Like I liked it. It was just like oh wow,
Huh.
I could really see this. I could see this working. I could see myself being a drama therapist or a
Wow.
movement therapist and incorporating like expressive arts practices into
Huh.
therapy, things like that. And I looked into a couple expressive arts programs and I realized, you know what? In order to maybe serve a greater need or to open myself up to other opportunities, I decided to get the broader degree in family therapy, so that way I could
Oh,
also put my
wow.
spin on it
Okay.
too. And yeah, so now I'll have like the training to be able to sit with people in like a private practice setting or
Mm.
agency setting work with families, couples, kiddos, and also like eventually be able to do some really cool stuff with expressive arts. That's
That's
yeah,
amazing,
that's how I'm
Becca.
here. Yeah, thank
Wow.
you. Thank
That's so
you.
cool. When are you done with your degree? Your next one?
May. Yes, this one, May. I'm done in May. Yes, it's my
Wow.
last
Oh my
year.
gosh.
I know. It feels like there
Amazing.
had, yeah, it wasn't an end in sight, and now there's an end in sight, and unless I do my PhD,
Oh.
which we'll see. But yeah,
Why
I'm
not?
May 2020. I know. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's going really
awesome.
well, and yeah, yeah, I love
Wow.
it.
And it sounds like you have so many
Yeah,
different routes and options that you could go down with this. So it sounds perfect. And
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, and do you have any fall traditions that I mean, in San Diego, it's like,
Ooh, I know.
does fall ever happen? But
Yeah, so I get very excited if it drops below 70 degrees here, like 68
the
degrees.
horror.
Yeah, I would say like at about, I know, at about 68, so much. But it never gets cold enough to wear them.
Okay.
So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll sweat a little. And so yeah, wearing scarves. I know it's like my own little tradition. And also, I don't necessarily like ascribe to like too much commercialism, but I do love a good fall holiday cup situation, like the fall drinks
Oh,
at
okay.
the coffee shops and things like that. Like I love a good pumpkin
Okay.
something,
Well, the pumpkin spice
anything.
latte is now
Yes.
out again. Have you had it yet?
I know. I've been holding off till after Labor Day
All
just for my
right.
own convictions. Because I'm like, oh, it's earlier every year, but I do love it. I do love, yeah. So, yeah, scarves and lattes because I don't really get much else
That's
here.
wonderful.
But yeah, yeah.
And can you talk about, like, what do you think is your biggest success story?
Oh, yeah. So it's really interesting that you asked that question because I recently started thinking more in
Mhm.
successes, like in terms of like, oh, this is a win for me, like thinking about the results of my life rather than like, oh, I'm in this process. When am I going to get to the next step?
Hmm.
And so I would say, I know that your family knows about this, and some people know about this, and it's coming up in the piece that I'm writing for the newsletter too. But our daughter recently passed away about 9 months ago, and I was in school still, and there was like kind of a crossroads situation where it's like, oh, something major and huge has happened. Do I want to even continue this? Because like I had the option to drop out and just kind of like figure what else out. Because I'd missed some school and I decided to go back like within a month. And it was the biggest success so far because I went back. I was able to see a client right away who was going through something similar and give them therapy, which was like one of the coolest experiences of my life. And also, I ended up getting a placement because I'm technically a marriage and family therapy trainee right now.
Oh,
So I'm in the field. I have a caseload, and I'm at a high school right now, which was like one of the best kind of placements that I could get at this
huh.
place. It was my top choice. And I ended up getting it because of, just coming back, determination, working hard. And now I'm able to help like a bunch of really, really cool teenagers that inspire me every day. So I would say that has like been my biggest success so far is going back after that.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome, Becca. We're
Yeah.
so sorry that happened, and um,
Oh, thank you.
I'm glad you can like create a success out of a situation that you can help people with too. I'm like, that's really great that you could help someone
Definitely.
as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. It
Um,
feels good. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Um, can you talk about? I mean, I guess like being in so much grad school and like family therapy
Yeah.
and like I'm sure you have like you have classes on like what it means to have gender and what it means to be like female and a woman. Can you talk about
Hmm.
like
Mm.
I mean I think it changes every day and it changes from person to person, but what is your definition for being female or being a woman?
Ooh, yeah. So many layers to
Yeah.
that. I so the program that I'm in right now is really radical and political in terms of like the theories that we learn about how we get to be the way that we
Mm.
are, right? And I'm under the firm belief that we're all products of different contexts and stories and relationships in our lives, right? Like there's no issue that happens in isolation. And we're all in
Mm.
relationship with one another. And all of, from my experiences, my beliefs, my values have been informed by what I like to call discourses, which are these like beliefs about the world that come from somewhere culturally. So a discourse
Huh.
could mean like what it means to be a woman, right? What it means to be, beliefs of what women should do, how women should act that are informed by culture, religion, politics, everything, right? And so I'm
Mm.
constantly in a state of deconstructing that and learning how I've come to learn things about being a woman. And so I would say initially I thought being a woman meant serving based off of how I grew up, and not necessarily in a
Huh.
bad way, right? But just like kind of being there to make sure that everyone else was okay. And
Hmm.
maybe sometimes forgetting who you are as an individual because there are bigger things at hand. And so now I'm kind of under this idea, this notion that women, in my mind, baseline, are resilient. What it means to be a woman is to be resilient, um,
Hmm.
to survive under any circumstance that informs you, and to thrive in order to serve, which is a lot more empowering than how I would initially think about it, right? And so
Yeah.
my little like radical feminist in me is saying, if I had to kind of make a lump claim, I would say
Mm.
resilience because I think that could fit. But
Yeah, and I think really any definition is okay for what we think of as
yeah,
being female or woman, and especially since gender is so fluid now too. Um,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
but I think resilience is so empowering, like you said, and so tough and badass.
yeah,
And I think that's a great
yeah.
way to think about it, and something I'm going to take away. Yeah,
Oh, great, yay.
yeah. And then I'm curious too. Have you ever felt prejudice because of your gender? And do you have stories about it? And and or maybe you don't. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think where that resilience comes from, it comes from somewhere, right? So, in order to come over something or work through something or be strong through something, there has to be some form of oppression or prejudice or something like that to come out of. And I'm under a firm believer that in one way or another, we all kind of have instances of that, right? I definitely would say that because of my gender, I was assumed to be one way, and I end up surprising a lot of people. I grew up in a very traditional household where gender roles were kind of assumed and predefined. And yeah, I'll say that in terms of like, putting dinner on the table and serving and making sure, the males were served first in age order
Oh.
on the table, things like that. Um, and it all comes from a good place. It comes from like a long-standing, form of tradition and things like that. And I value that. It's a form of my upbringing. And also sometimes I was hungry and I wanted my soup first. So I don't mean to, downplay it at
Hmm.
all, but yeah, that and also in terms of education, I think, I've had at least one conversation with some people in my life that have said like, why do you need to go to school? Why do you need to do that? You can
Hmm.
find your husband and get married. Why do you need to go to college? And that's great for some people, and that's a wonderful life for some people. And I did end up meeting my husband in college, but not because I'm searching for it. I was searching for an education. Um, just that distinction I like to share. But yeah, so I definitely think my journey in becoming more educated or getting these degrees, which means it's a fancy, letters for debt.
Mhm.
But getting all these degrees and stuff like that, I think is my own little protest against those moments of prejudice, I guess you can call
Yes,
them.
queen. Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
learn. Let's learn. Yes.
Perfect. Um,
Yeah.
and how do you feel about talking about PMS? Has it ever had
Mm,
taboo connotations for you? I mean, I remember when I was growing up, I like would die if I said the word period. But now I say it all the time.
hmm
But
hmm
it's my job to say it and scream it.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
about you? Do you have any of these stories or anything you'd like to share about PMS or periods? Um,
Definitely. Oh, yeah, definitely. So there's so much there with like family traditions of what it means to get your period and everything like that. I
mm.
do know that there's a huge, the moodiness has always been a thing in my life that I would want to talk about and be like, this is why I'm experiencing this. I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm like, I'm in myself right now. This is happening. But then instead of being like, oh, let's talk about what's contributing to this, it was always like, oh, Becca's being nasty.
Mm.
Like, let's not. And so there was never, yeah, it was definitely taboo to be like, no, I'm about to get my period. Like, what's going on? Why can't we talk about
Yeah.
this? I guess I should have known when I was 13 that I wanted to be an open communicator. But it's like, why can't we all just talk about it? So yes, definitely. And also there was like
Mm.
a sense of shame, and secrecy around it too. I remember always being very prepared, and this is like my one period story that I like to tell everyone when we start talking about it if we're in a social setting.
Yes.
And I had first gotten my period, and my mom was taught me very well to be over prepared for situations, like always, right? And I
Great.
wasn't sure like how to use a tampon yet. So like pads were my go-to. I was like, itty bitty Becca seventh grader. And of course, I had like a gallon freezer sized plastic Ziploc bag filled with pads. Like any
Oh
kind of
my
pad under the
gosh.
sun, I had it just in case. You never
Incredible.
know in a 6 hour period of middle school how much you would need. I had it, right? It was like a Costco supply bag in my backpack. And I was like pretty clumsy. And I remember I was going to like shut my backpack, but I forgot because I always had an open backpack. People were always like taking stuff
Oh
out because it's like, oh, Becca, close your backpack. And I was pretty clumsy. I wasn't paying attention. And I was walking down like the hill to go to my next class. And I didn't see where I was going. And I physically bumped into my history teacher. And this giant, like a comedy movie, this giant, like Ziploc bag of industrial pads that were probably from like 1986, like flew out of my backpack onto the floor,
no.
and my jaw just dropped. I'm like,
Oh no.
and my teacher like looks down, makes eye contact with me, and goes, Rebecca, and I'm like, huh, mister, and then I just like pick it up and run to the bathroom and just like cry. I was like, oh. But the truth is, it's totally normal. And like, you're a teacher in middle school, like, you should know that your students get their periods and that, like, you should be proud of them for being prepared.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so much shame associated with this. Why couldn't I have somebody talk to me like when I was that age to be like, this is normal, this is
Hmm.
okay?
Yeah, and I think those
Yeah.
conversations are starting to happen now, but just us growing up, like, I don't know, when was that? 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't a thing then, which is wild. Oh my gosh, I just
Mm,
like had
yeah.
physical anxiety from you telling that story.
Right? Every time
Yeah.
it's like the time stands still and the pad bag is flowing in the air. Yeah. Like, no.
Yeah. Amazing.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
Um, so another question for you. How do you think we can
Yeah.
solve the gender gap?
Mm,
If there is one, if
big
our
question.
genders are still particular, I guess, but
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yes. Education in Speaking up, I think, is huge. And I know there are plenty of vocal, wonderful women who advocate for themselves. And I also fear that we're just not taught to advocate for ourselves at young ages in ways that would help us get more money, in ways that'll help us get paid more, in ways that'll help us get more advantages, in ways that will help us get opportunities in life. I never learned necessarily that it was okay to negotiate. I always felt like, oh, just,
Mm,
uh, oh, whatever they give you, you should be lucky to have, and that's what it is. And as I'm getting older and as I'm getting more confident in who I am as a human in this, vessel, I would definitely say that advocating for myself has been one of the hugest tools to learn. And sometimes, saying no can really, or saying, I'm not so sure about that. How can we explore more options that benefit me? I mean, stereotypically might label you as, not a great word or too difficult
mhm,
or things like that. But if men, cis identifying men were to say the same thing, it wouldn't be an issue because men are taught to be, if we're talking about, stereotypical masculinity, are taught to be like steadfast and know what you want and be good at business and things like that. And so why can't we learn the same? Why can't we be encouraged to do the same instead of you know, keeping quiet and just saying, yeah, okay, and putting all
mhm.
the smileys in our emails and things like that. I don't know if that answers your
Yeah.
question, but yes, and
No,
I
I think that's
and
great.
I can't tell you, yeah, I can't tell you how many students and young people that I'm working with who their main concern that they're coming in with is, I can't speak up in class because I'm nervous
Mm,
that a teacher is going to tell me that I'm dumb. And so, how can we assure, the future generation that you're not dumb? You're there, you're showing up, you're working hard, and you're doing the best you can. You
mhm.
deserve this opportunity just as much as anybody else. So name it.
That's great. Thank you, Becca.
Yeah.
And then I think like a similar
Hmm.
question I have is how do you like do you have
Yeah.
some concrete ways that we can fight for women's equality?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Um, Concrete ways that we can fight for women's equality. Education, education, education. I know I'm in a place of privilege. Um, Being able to go to school and put my mind in a way that can, I don't know, I guess know more things if you want to call it that. I don't know what real power I hold. But I would say hitting the books um, because when we know more, we're stronger and we're a force to be reckoned with. I would also say, um, yeah, similar answer. Learning ways and working with people and I am kind of biased, but maybe working with a counselor, working with somebody to learn how to advocate for yourself and represent yourself in the way that you want, in the way that you prefer, and ask for help. I don't think that we can um, bypass inequalities in isolation. I think we need to stand strong together as a community, um, and when you ask for help, you're linking yourself to somebody else. So I'm not sure if that's concrete enough. I live kind of in the abstract, so
No, I think that's
apologies if
wonderful.
that's,
So study, hit the
yeah,
books, and ask people for help. You're not alone. I think that's
yes,
wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I just have some fun ending questions to wrap up with you.
Okay, let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yes. What's your favorite beach read that you've had this summer
Ooh,
or in
yes.
general?
I love anything. Yeah, so I read a lot about emotions
Cool.
and communication, and that is for school. If I'm not doing that, I would definitely read anything from Mindy Kaling. Her couple of books like really
I love
just
her.
like give me inside fuzzies, and I love that. Yeah, I'm really into memoirs of ladies, so anything.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
anything there. Yeah.
Where's your favorite place you've ever traveled?
Okay, so I haven't traveled many places internationally, but I would definitely say that Sedona, Arizona
Oh,
is like my favorite place to be. I've been there a couple
wow.
times, and there's something like so peaceful about being in those canyons, like in the red rocks with that mud and the turquoise and the people and the hippy dippy like vortexes and all that stuff. I dig it so much.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I've never been there.
yeah.
Okay, if
Oh,
they
sweet.
were
You
to make a
should.
movie about your life, who would play you and why?
Ooh, okay. I was really struggling with this one. So I don't feel like there's any person that represents me like directly. However, if I were to pick like based on mere acting chops alone, I would
Great.
go obviously Meryl Streep because she's great. Not that I think that highly of
Perfect.
myself, but like if I had to cast it, I would probably go with
Yes,
Meryl and then maybe some kind of like America Ferrera redo Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants cast in some
I
way
love
to
it.
represent like different people, maybe. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
That would be awesome. Meryl Streep. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And when did you start your period? You kind of mentioned it in your story earlier.
Yeah, yeah. I was 12 and I was not
Hmm.
excited. I was not excited um, because I knew that would like make me a woman.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, that's too much pressure. I can't do that right now. I'm not into that right now. Like, I remember being like, Mom, it's gonna ruin my life. Um, but no, it's 12, and I've had it ever since. So
great.
yeah, yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. And if any, for whoever else is watching or listening and you're going through something, or even if you just need a little bit of maintenance, it's great to talk to somebody. If it's not a counselor, it's a friend or a religious leader, somebody that you can connect to. It's important. And anywhere in your area, there's likely free services to mental health access care. Um, Look it up. You're not alone. Talk to somebody. So, yeah, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Becca. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.